Hello, I'm Russ Wills. I am Associate Professor of Biblical Studies at Pillar College. I'm also an artist working primarily in photography and fused glass. Emerge is a series of portraits that addresses, among other things, depression and other mental health issues. Each photograph in the Emerge series is printed entirely from glass. And glass has become a really powerful metaphor for me. It represents life. Glass obviously is very fragile. And yet, when I started working with glass, I was amazed at how strong it actually is, very much like human life. The process that I go through to create these glass pieces is really important to the underlying concept of the work. The piece of glass that you start with, the sheets of glass have to be cut. And to cut glass, you score the glass with a special tool, and it creates weakness along that scoring line. And you can have either a special tool and guide a little crack that forms in the glass, or you can pick up the glass sheet and tap it against something if it's a straight enough score, and the glass will actually crack right on that weak spot. Sometimes the glass has to be ground down into powders, and to make all this come together as a finished piece, you have to expose it to tremendous heat, very often more than once. And without doing these violent things, taking these violent actions, you won't get that life-giving beauty that emerges at the end. Each piece in the Emerge series suggests struggle and loneliness, even depression, but it's also mixed with this redemptive beauty that suggests the fullness of life. The portraits in some of these pieces can be a bit difficult to see. I intentionally leave the portrait a bit ambiguous. There's a lot of chaos in the piece. The portrait might either be emerging from or disappearing into this chaos. This is one of my favorite pieces so far, and unfortunately it was damaged while it was being shipped from a gallery in Indiana back to my house. Thankfully, glass is tough. The glass piece itself was unharmed, and I don't mind remaking a frame. Fixing a cracked glass piece is a whole lot harder than remaking a frame. Apparently I didn't cool it properly because it cracked in the kiln. And I laid out all the pieces of this to see if I could fix it or salvage it. I really was disappointed, and all of a sudden I realized it looks really cool the way it is. The cracked version actually worked better than what I intended with the regular version. So instead of fixing it, I used it. That failure ended up shaping the whole project. It fit the concept of the work so well, and it really helped to shape the whole series. My wife was a glass artist long before I was, and she would dig through these bins of scrap glass, trying to find just the right piece. And once in a while I would ask her, "Don't you cut yourself when you do that?" And she would say, "Well, yeah, why?" And I was so confused. I just couldn't imagine why she would do that to herself. And sure enough, here I am now, digging through bins of scrap glass, cutting myself all the time. If you really want to know how I'm doing, you don't have to ask. Usually you can just tell by looking at my hands. If my hands are covered in scars and band-aids and blood, I'm probably doing pretty well.